Hi, everyone, and welcome to another session from this series, Getting Started with AI on Google Cloud Platform. Yes, again, I'm Youssef Ben Dhieb. I work at Dhieb as an AI research engineer and the team lead, and I'm also a Google developer expert in machine learning. So last time we had a small introduction to the Google Cloud Platform and how to create a VM, etc. And actually, these series are about the preparation for the professional machine learning engineer certificate in Google Cloud. And so for this lesson today, we will see how to use the machine learning APIs from Google Cloud Platform. So the Google Cloud Platform actually has multiple products like the Compute Engine, Kubernetes Engine, Cloud Run, etc. And you need to know most of these products in order to pass the exam for the machine learning engineer. And one of these products or some of these products are the machine learning APIs, such as the natural language API, the vision API, speech API, and the translate API. And this is what we are going through today. So today we'll take a look at a quest in the skills boost, and it's called Integrate with Machine Learning APIs. You can find the link in the chat. And this quest has actually multiple labs, but we will do only the first and the second labs. So the first one is an introduction to the Google APIs, or to the APIs in general in Google Cloud Platform. How to communicate with them, etc. What is an API? What's the protocol to communicate with the API? What are JSON files? And all of that stuff. It's just an introduction to the APIs. And then in the next lab, we will actually take an image and we will use the machine learning APIs to extract text from that image and then translate it into English, and then analyze the text using the natural language API and detect the entities in the text. For example, if we are looking for people names or for dates or for locations, for example, in the test. And it will be very helpful if you have, for example, a lot of documents that you don't want to do that manually. You can directly use the APIs to do that. The other advantage of the APIs is actually if you don't have a deep knowledge, how to build AI models and how to use them. So suppose you want to build a proof of concept or even a web application in production, and you don't know how to use like deep learning models or how to create them or train them, etc. So the easiest way to integrate API integrate machine learning in your application is to use the machine learning APIs. Where you send, for example, the image to the API, and it will give you back, for example, the text in that image, and then analyze the text if you have multiple text files, for example. Integrate that into your app. Okay, we'll start with the first lab. So let's go. You also find this link in the chat. So as usual, you start with Start Lab. And it will give you 1 hour to finish this lab, actually. And here you'll find the username to log in with in the GCP console, the password to connect with, and the Google Platform project ID. Okay, let's go through this. We don't need this. So the first task is the APIs, what and why. So actually, the APIs refers to Application Programming Interface, and it's a software program that will give developers access to computing resources and data, and where you communicate with them through code instead of a user interface, as you don't need the user interface in your application to communicate with this. And they are usually actually built for developers so that they can link them with their applications. And the cloud APIs, actually Google has multiple APIs on the Google Cloud Platform that you can use. And when you start a Quick Lab project, it will actually enable most of these APIs. And yeah, the third part is the API library and how to access these APIs. So let's go to the Google console. Let's open it in a new incognito window so that we don't get so we use the credential they provided, and then for the password you will get your own password in here. You paste it and it will connect to the Google Cloud platform. Okay, yeah, so the first thing is how to look for APIs and how to enable them. And yeah, let's go. So we go in here and then API and services, and then we go to the library. And this is the API library where you can find many APIs. So as an example, we can check, for example, the fitness API, where you will be using the Google Fitness API. Yeah, and it's not actually activated, so you need to enable it. Yeah, so once enabled, it will open a new page. Yeah. Okay, so when you go in here, let me go back here. So you go to APIs and services, and you go to enabled APIs and services. And it will show you all the metrics and monitoring of your APIs. And here you can see all the APIs that you have already enabled. And let's go to the fitness API. Actually, it will be in the second page. Yeah, the fitness API. So when you click on it, you will see all of the metrics related to your APIs. How many requests did you send? What are the limits, etc. So yeah, so these are the metrics. And for the quotas, for example, if you want to set some limits to the requests, you want to limit the requests. For example, the default values for the requests per day is 864K. And per minute is 600, and actually per user it's 300. If you want to change these quotas, let's say you want to increase or decrease the value per day, you need to go to edit quotas. And then, you need to select the quota. And then, yeah, you go here and you put the new limit. So we put, for example, 600K. We submit the request. So it will decrease by 30%. Okay, so the request has been made. You need to wait a little bit for it. Let's refresh the page. Yeah, it takes a few seconds more. Yeah, and here we have our new quota updated. Good. Yeah, let's go back to the quick lab. Okay, so that's it on how to enable and manage an API in the GCP library. And yeah, so here you go to the fitness API quotas. This is what we did. Okay, then and the fifth part is regarding the API architecture. So actually, so our computers or mobile phones, etc., communicating with the internet are the clients, and you will communicate with the server, which is on the Google Cloud, through the internet. Okay, so you will be sending requests to the server, and you will be following a specific protocol for that. So things to keep in mind is that the client is the laptop, for example, or your tablet or your phone, the device trying to access the internet, or even your application maybe, if it's communicating with an API. And it will connect through the internet, and then it will send and receive requests from servers. get or send data to the servers. So this is the server client architecture. And actually, these client servers, they communicate through a protocol, through a specific protocol through the internet. It's called the HTTP protocol. And when they communicate with this protocol, they have a specific language, actually, that they speak with, that they communicate with. And so you have, for example, a few commands that we can use for that communication, which are the get, put, post, and delete. And the get will let you fetch data and get data from the server. If you need anything from the server, you send a get command. And if you want to modify a value, replace it, or create a new value, so you can use the put command. Or if you want to create a new value, you will need to use the post command. And if you need to delete, for example, something, you will send the delete command. So that's it basically. And yeah, and so when you communicate with the server, you can have multiple endpoints in a server. As examples here, for example, through a specific website, you can have, for example, store locations. This is the path for an endpoint. This is a path for another endpoint, and this is a path for another endpoint. And from each of one, you can communicate with it using the previous commands that we saw there. Okay, and then we have the RESTful APIs. So the RESTful APIs is actually it stands for Representational State Transfer APIs. And it's a specific architectural style. Yeah. And actually in the RESTful APIs, we can use the following fields in their requests. We have the headers and we have the body. And the header is where we have the parameters that detail the HTTP request itself. And the body contains the data that the client wants to send to a server. And you can include into it your data, I mean. And yeah, the body is usually written in the JSON or XML format. However, today, actually, most of the APIs, they communicate through the JSON format because it's better and more lightweight and less prone to errors. And in the JSON format, we have, you can see the syntax document in here, but usually what we can put in JSON, in a JSON file, you can put numbers, you can put strings, you can put booleans, and you can put arrays, and you can put the null value. And this JSON actually, it contains different keys and values. This is how JSONs work. You have multiple keys, and for each keys you have value. And yeah, for example, this is an example of key and value. So the key will be always in a string, but the value could be like a string, it could be an integer, it could be a Boolean, or it could be an array. Okay, yeah, this is an example of a JSON object. Yeah, so you need to first use the braces in here, and then you will put your first key, which is the name, for example, and the value for the first key, it will give back a string for the name. The hometown is another key, and this is the hometown, and then the age, and here the value, for example, is integer. Okay, and the JSON, for the JSON validation, you can actually validate it online through the JSON lint. Let me show an example of that. Yeah, so this is a website where you can validate your JSON if it has, to check, I mean, quickly check if there is any error in it. So we can copy, for example, this JSON code in here, paste it here. When we click on validate, it says that it's a valid JSON. Now let's remove, for example, the comma, and we click on validate JSON. It will show us that we have an error in here in this line, in the second line, and that we are expecting an end of line. So it should be a comma, semicolon, or any of these. Yeah, so we can correct that by adding the comma. Then we validate again. Yeah, it's a nice quick way to validate your JSON file. Okay, so this is regarding the validation. Okay, creating a JSON file in the Google Cloud. Okay, in the Cloud Console. Okay, for this we will be using the Google Cloud Storage JSON API. And here what we are going to do is we will be creating a bucket in the Google Cloud Storage, but using the API, which is the JSON API for the Google Cloud Storage. Sorry. Instead of going through, let's say, through the user interface, let me go in here. Yeah. So through the user interface, if you want to create a bucket, you just need to go to Cloud Storage. And then here you just create a bucket and give it a name. Otherwise, you could need, for example, to create a bucket or automate the creation of the bucket. And you need to do that with the code instead of just doing it through the user interface. So this is what you are going to do. We'll be using the Cloud Storage JSON API. So let me copy the link. Yeah, you can also go to the library. I mean, as we did in the first part, you go through the library and you search for it. And here we can go to manage, so that we can check, this API. Okay. So what we are going to do now is we are going to create a JSON file called values. Okay, and for that, let me go back to the cloud here. Okay, and let's open the Cloud Shell. So we'll open a terminal in here, and we'll create the file. So it's called values.json, I think, yeah. Okay, so for that we'll use nano values.json. And we will write in it, this information in the JSON format. Yeah, so here we need to give it a specific name. For example, your bucket name, it should be a unique name that do not exist for any public bucket. So let's say, for example, Youssef's bucket. So this is the name, the location where this bucket will reside in US, and the storage class will be multi-regional. So we'll save this with Control X, and then Y for yes, and enter. Yeah. So now we have the values.json. We have all the information in it. Now we will use this JSON, and we'll communicate with the API and with this JSON file to create a new bucket. Okay, so now we need to go to the authentication and authorization. Okay. Yeah, so actually the authentication, it refers to the process of determining a client's identity, to know your identity, and the authorization refers to the process of determining what permissions an authenticated client has for a set of resources. So for authorizations and authentications, we can use three things. We can use API keys, we can use authentication, OAuth, and we can use service accounts. So API keys are very quick to generate, and they can actually give access to the full project, for example. And you'll be using these actually when you are prototyping and you want quick access. You don't want to spend too much time on the authorizations. Otherwise, we have the OAuth, which is mainly for users. If you want to give access for specific users, so you give them, you create OAuth tokens, and they are more actually. You can set with them like more details into which features they have access to and which permissions they can have. I mean, with more details than the API keys. And the third thing will be the service accounts. And usually the service account, we usually use it for, for, let's say, for a full application. For example, if you have your app, for example, hosted on a VM on a server, you can give it a service account to communicate, I mean, with the API. Okay, so now let's create an OAuth for us. Okay, so we need to go to this OAuth 2 playground to create one quickly. So here we will look for the cloud storage API. Yeah, cloud storage API. And then we will use the full control. Then we'll click on authorize APIs. Okay, sorry. Let me actually take this to the incognito window and do it here. Okay, full control, authorize APIs. Yeah, we choose the student in here and then allow. Okay, then here we click on exchange authorization code for tokens, and it will give us this access token. Okay, so all the information we need is in here. So we will copy this value here and we go back. Okay. Yeah, so now to create a bucket with the cloud storage JSON REST API, we need to be identified. So we cannot communicate like directly with the API without having done the authentication, etc. So what we will need, we will need actually to save our OAuth 2 token. Okay, and so to do it, we will export it as a environment variable. So we'll copy this. We'll go back to the Cloud Shell and we will write it and replace this token with the token that we got here. Okay, yeah, this way we exported this variable. And our project ID, actually, let's export it as well. One of the ways we can get the project ID. So for the quick lab, you get it from here. Otherwise, you can get it through a command in here in the Cloud Shell. Okay, let's save this. Okay, yes, now we will have to run this command to create the storage bucket. So what we will do here, we will use the curl library to communicate with the API, and we will use the post command. Okay, and here the data binary will be our values.json file, which contains all the information we need. I mean to for the bucket, the name of the bucket, the region, etc. And the authorization, it will be using, so here we save the token here as an environment variable. And you specify in the header the content type, which is an application JSON. And yeah, and we put the link to the API, to the endpoint. And we add also the project and the project ID as a project ID. Yeah, so let's copy actually this and execute it. Yeah, so we got an error. It's code 409. The request bucket name is not available. Okay, so this name is not available. Let's modify it again. Nano values JSON. And yeah, so let's say Youssef's bucket 2. And then we save. And then let me run the same command. Yeah, and here it created the bucket. So the name is Youssef's bucket 2, project number, etc. So yeah, this is the response we got from the API. And if we go in here in cloud storage, we are in there. So again, you go to the cloud storage from here and click on buckets. Okay, let me refresh because we are already here. Yeah, and now we can find that we have our bucket created, Youssef's bucket 2. And when you click on it, it will open the bucket. It will show you the content of this bucket, actually. Cool, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, we can check the progress in here. Okay, and then what we can do, we can also upload the file using the Google Storage JSON REST API. Yeah, so here we can also upload files to these buckets using JSON REST API instead of doing it like, for example, manually. Okay, so one thing we will do, we'll download this image. So save image as, and we save it as demo image.png. Okay, it's already there in the log before. Okay. Yeah, and then what we're going to do, we'll go to the Google Cloud in here. Yeah, where is the console? Okay, let me open it again. Yeah, it was closed. Okay, yeah, so here we have 3 dots. We can upload the file, choose file, and yeah, we'll use the demo.png. Okay, and we upload. Okay, perfect. Yeah, now we can get the real path to the image, the full path to the image. So we just need to write a real path and then the name of the file. So it will give us this full path in here. And we will export this path as an environment variable called object. Okay. Okay, let me copy this path here. Okay. Okay. Next step also, we will export the bucket name. So the bucket name is Youssef's bucket 2. And now we will use this command. It's as usual, we will use the curl library, and it's a post command. And we will send the data. The data will be the object, which is the path to the image. So this will be our data that we're going to send to the API. And we have our OAuth token as usual. And yeah, and the content type is an image, a PNG image. And this is also the endpoint for the API. So let's copy this. And let's paste it in here and run. Okay, so this is the response. Let's reload. Yeah. Yeah, and here you can see that we have the demo image in the bucket. It was uploaded. Yeah, so that's how you deal with the buckets through the APIs. Yeah, here we can check the progress to finish this quest. This lab actually. So once finished, we just click on End Lab, and we will do the second one where we will use the machine learning APIs. Okay, let's go back to the quest, and we go to the second lab. Okay, as usual, we start the lab to get the credentials. Yeah, let me also close this one here, and this one. We don't need them anymore. Okay, so what we are going to do in this lab is we will like communicate with the Google Cloud Vision API to extract text from an image, and then and use the OCR, I mean, in the Vision API to extract the text, and then we will use the translation API to convert that text, because that text is in another language. For example, for this lab, they put, for example, a French text, but we can try it with another image containing any other type of text, other language. And we will translate it to English, and then we will use the natural language API to analyze that text. Okay, as usual, the setup and requirements. Okay, let's skip that. Let's skip this as well. Okay. Yeah, so the first thing, so here, so in the previous lab, we used the OAuth token, and here we will be using the API key. It's very quick to use, to generate also. So how do we do that? We go to the navigation, API services, and then credentials. Let me open the Google Cloud Console in an incognito window. Okay, let me copy the password. Okay. Okay, I agree to the terms, etc. Agree and continue. Okay. Yeah, okay. So we said we go through actually APIs and services, and we go to credentials. And now to create an API key, we can go to create credentials actually. And we will choose, so we can create new service account, new auth client ID, or new API key. So we create new API key. Okay, and we will copy this key actually. Okay, and then here we will export this API key. Yeah. Let's open the Cloud Shell. Continue. Okay, so let's export the API key environment variable. And let's show again the key and copy it. Okay. And here we can check the progress. Oh, good. Okay. Now what we are going to do, we'll upload an image to a cloud storage bucket. So we will go to the cloud storage, create a bucket the usual way, and we will set actually a more fine-grained access type. So let's go to cloud storage buckets. Now, when you create a new bucket through the user interface, we will, let's say we create a bucket like earlier, Youssef. it's bucket and 3, so that we don't get an error. And okay, choose how to control access to objects, so that we can put, for example, some objects public and some objects are private. And we click on create. Cool, so here we have our bucket created. Okay, yeah. And now we will need to upload the image. So, okay, so we need to upload to download the image in here and save it in our computer, and then upload it to the cloud storage. But we can choose another image, for example, instead of this one. Let's say sign in the street, written, for example, in German, since I don't know German. Okay, let's go to images. Let's choose one of the images in here. Okay. Okay, we can take this one, for example, if you want, or this one. It looks, yeah, this word looks a bit, yeah, but we have the stock in here. Yeah, let's choose another one. Okay, this one. So this one looks, yeah, it's very difficult to understand, at least for me. So yeah, let's save this image. Save image as, and we sign that JPG. Yeah, we replace it. Okay. Okay, so instead of this image, we will use the German one. And then we will go to the bucket and upload the image. So here we are in the bucket, and we upload files, and we will use the signed.jpg. Yeah, all good, uploaded. And one other thing we will do, we will make it public. So we will need to go here and we will edit the access. So in the edit access here, you can see who can access actually this specific object, and what kind of access do they have. For example, for the project, in this project, for example, yeah, for this project, for the owners of this project, let's say what type of access they are also owner. For the editors, they are also owner, and for the viewers, they are only readers. And for the student here, a user, it's owner, which is us. And let's create a new one, and we put it public. All users, and they are readers, they can. So we'll put it in public, but everyone can read, but cannot delete it. So we will save that. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we did all of this. Check my progress. All good. Okay, and here you will create your Vision API request. Okay, so for this request, we will create the JSON file as usual. So I will just copy this here and create. So what's the name? This is called, yeah, OCR request, for example, .json. We will create this one, nano OCR request .json. And then we will copy the text detection. Okay, yeah, what we just need to do is to change the name in here. My bucket name, we will put the name of my bucket. So Youssef is bucket 3, and then we save. Okay, perfect. Okay, then yeah, we need to use yeah, this command to communicate with the Vision API. And actually, we didn't talk about this. Yeah. So here we have in this JSON we have the request. So this is the first key, and it contains these values. So the image and the source. So this is the path to the source. And the features, we want to do text detection, and we want maximum results of 10. So we send that to the API, and which is the Vision API from Google APIs. Okay, and we already defined the API key. So, and what we want to do is, we will send this file, the OCR request.json that we just created. So let's use this command. And we have all of this. Okay, so here it will detect all of the text, and it will show you also where in the image exactly it exists. So these are the coordinates for the boxes around the text. But what we need is this part in here, so the text. So this is the text, Wanderer and Redfarer. This is escape now. Yeah, Wanderer, Redfarer, and then we have a new line, Jogger named Gegen, or I don't know how to say that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, basically, good. This is the, yeah, it actually detected this one in here. Okay, good. Yeah, so now that we are able to extract it. So what we could do, we could also, so we got this response, and what we could do actually, we could download it into a response file, a JSON file containing the response. So what you need to add the -o for output and the name of the JSON file where to save the output. So let's run this. And yeah, so let's check the files. Yeah, we have also a response.json. Okay. Yeah, and it's here. Okay, perfect. Yeah, now the second API. So the second API will be the translation API. What we are going to do, we will send this text to the translation API. So we need to create the JSON file for the translation request. It will contain our text and the target to which language. By the way, also when detecting, it also detects the language. Yeah, it also detects the language of the text usually, and even for the translation API when it will translate. So the target is in English, but it will detect the text automatically also. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So let's create the translation request.json. So translation request.json. Yeah. Let's nano. Okay, and we will paste these values. So the query text, your text here, we will change that actually with a command in here. Let's go back and let's run this command. So this command will actually change the text in here by the text in our response, in our response, OCR response.json. Okay. So let's run this command. Now let's check again the OCR. Not the OCR, sorry. We say the translation request. Yeah, so the text here has been actually replaced. Good. Yeah, next step. So we need to send that to the translation API. So we'll use, as usual, the curl library. We'll use the post command in the headers. So we'll put the data as translation request.json. And we will communicate with the translation API from Google APIs. And with the API key is already defined. And the output will be in the translation response.json. Okay, let's run it. And it's really quick. Yeah, so let's show the translation response.json. And yeah, this is our translation that we got back from the API. So the translation text is hikers, cyclists, and joggers take each other into consideration. Dogs are to be leashed, the gender status. Okay. And the detected source language is actually DE, which is for German. Cool, perfect. Now we have our translation. We can also use the natural language processing API to analyze the text. For example, let's create another file in a request.json for the natural language processing. And we will copy this as usual. So we have the document plain text, and we will change our text in here. And this is the encoding type. Okay, let's create it in a request.json. Nano request.json and paste that. Okay, Control X, Y, enter. Okay, now we have our file. We need to copy also the previous text from the translation response. So we'll use this command. We'll just copy the text and put it in this JSON for the request. So here, if we show again our NL request, we'll find that the content changed and we copy the content. Good. And what we can do, we can call the analyze entities endpoint from the natural language API to analyze all the words in our text. So if we have a date, for example, or name of a person or something like that, it can detect it. But we don't have for this image. So yeah, let's just copy this and check. Okay, so this is the output. Okay, let me bring this here. Yeah, let's check it. Yeah, so the entities, hikers, type person, but the settings is there 036. Type common, cyclist, person, settings 027. Joggers, same thing, it's for persons. Okay, each other, it's for persons. Consideration, its type is other. Dogs, other. Gender status, it's other. Yeah, so this is the analysis it gave. But for example, in the image here in the example, let me just check if we have. Yeah, so here we have basically finished everything. But let me go back to the image they used. It's in French actually. Yeah, and it says le bien public, les dépêches, pour Obama, la moutarde est de Dijon. So this is translated for Obama. The mustard is from Dijon. And yeah, and when you analyze this text with the natural language API, yeah, it will show you that the mustard is other, for example. Dispatches is other, Obama is person, and its type is proper. Means a name of a person. And Dijon, for example, it detects that this is a location, and the type is proper as well. So here, if you have like documents you need to analyze, and you are looking, for example, on let's say if you are using something like you need to use something to detect all the names of persons in let's say you have hundreds of books. You need to detect dates, you need to detect places, and you need to detect names of persons. So if you're going to use like regular methods, it will be a bit difficult to detect that, because you will need to have a dictionary of the names of all the people, and you need to differentiate between dates and regular other numbers. You will need to do for locations also. You need a big dictionary. So here will be a fast and easy way if you want to, let's say, create a proof of concept, a mobile application or a web application for your job, to analyze, for example, documents quickly and extract the needed information. It will be very quick, to use that. And, it will take you like maybe 1 or 2 days to create a proof of concept. An application that can use AI and use, even if you had, let's say, even images, you want to extract data from them and then analyze them with the natural language API. So all of this, you can do it like in just 2 days and come up with a POC for that. Okay, great. Yeah, so we finished our lab. As usual, we end the lab. Yeah. And I hope that this session has been helpful for you. So the next time, we will dig more in, probably in the machine learning fundamentals, or one of the other products of the Google Cloud platform. So it's not decided yet. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the session, and have a nice evening or a nice day.